Would you
Talk
like
to your advisory council during the break. And
you don't need to yell at me either.
I'm at you, okay?
Yeah, you are, and you do not need to talk to me that way. I'm very curious.
Lori Vallow.
That was my favorite moment from court today. Hi, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Hello, beautiful humans. I'm Megan Connor. I'm host of the Midlife Revolution podcast, and unfortunately, I'm also Lori Vallow Daybell's first cousin. Lori's mom, Janice, is the older sister of my dad, and Lori and I grew up together. We spent summertime together when we were kids. She was a bridesmaid at my wedding. I lived with her and Adam in Austin for a short time when we were young adults, and we were young moms together. Her oldest son, Colby, was pretty close with my oldest daughter until they were in their tweenage years. I've been around the Cox family a lot. They lived here in San Antonio. Alex, Stacy, Janice, and Barry all lived here in San Antonio for about 10 years. Stacy passed away in 1998, and I was there with Alex when that happened while the rest of the family was on vacation in Hawaii. That's a story that you can hear about on my Mormon Stories interview or my Hidden True Crime interview. I do talk about it here and there in different interviews that I've done, but I am so done with Lori. I'm so tired of talking about her. I'm so tired of saying her name. However, I am very passionate about teaching people about manipulation and control and how to defend against it. And so I'm going to keep talking about her and the family system in an effort to help all of you beautiful humans out there understand these patterns so that we don't repeat them in our own lives. I am so grateful to see all of you here tonight. Thank you for being here with me. Having a community of beautiful humans helps me to basically unpack and dig through all of the emotions around being related to family members who have killed family members. It is tough to do. It's hard work, and I'm really grateful to have you beautiful humans here with me. It has been a very long day, and in my video description, I promised to bring you 5 amazing things that happened in court today. I'm going to try to be very concise with my recap over here because it's been a long day and I'm exhausted. If you have questions, please call attention to them. I will be answering as many of them as I can. However, I have a goal to be done in an hour. Do you think we can do it? Do you think we can recap everything that crazy that happened in court today in just an hour? I'm hoping that we can. If you're here for the first time, welcome. I know this case can be a lot, and if you are just now digging into the Lori Vallow Daybell saga, buckle up, Buttercup, because it is a bumpy ride. I definitely recommend my recap of yesterday. I went through the whole family tree, so you can see how everyone is related to everyone. I don't want to go through that again tonight, but if you're looking for that, it's on my day 1 recap. Let's see what other things are out there. I did a whole video on Barry Cox and his family of origin and his relationship with Lori, or at least the characteristics that I think lent themselves to Lori. And I dug in a lot to the divorce between Barry and Janice's oldest daughter, Stacy, and her husband. Stacy, the oldest daughter, is the mother of Melanie Boudreaux Pulowski. And so understanding her origin story is very important as well. I also did an entire timeline recap for just specifically this case. I left out some of the details on the sideline cases just because I thought it was important to focus on all of the information that's necessary for this case. And I even went into some of the things that happened between Brandon and Melanie after the shooting, some of the more concerning things. And that is something we're going to talk a lot about today because Melanie has been a focus in this trial so far. And we learned today, spoilers ahead, Although I'm spoiling it for you on purpose. We learned today that Melanie Boudreaux Pulowski is indeed under investigation. It is an ongoing investigation. So all of you who have been wondering why she hasn't been charged, that's why. The investigation is ongoing. I do want to mention that it's been a tough day and I'm not quite as sharp as I normally am. Every once in a while, I get notifications on my phone of comments that people have left on my videos. And when I did my recap, I got a comment from a lady who said that I've said way too many times and I clearly couldn't think of what I was going to say. And so she was out of here and she's not coming back. And I said, bye-bye. It was a really, really tough day. And my brain is still a little bit foggy from the trauma. Although I have processed through some of it, it was really difficult for me to see Brandon basically just be abused on the stand by Lori. That's one of the things that makes me more angry than anything else is Lori's disrespect towards the victims, both alive and dead in this case. Thank you so much, Mixed Monkey. I actually have someone out on an errand to find me something nice right now. So I'm very excited about that. I will definitely put that there. I really appreciate you guys and your kindness and your support. Thanks for being here. No More BS as a mod, and thanks to Alaska's Angel Uncle. You guys have done such a great job today of helping me out in the chat so I could take breaks when I needed to, and I really appreciate it. So let me get to it. Let me get to a few of the things. So 5 things, right? I promised you 5 things, and I always want to deliver those 5 things, and we're going to dig deep into them. But first, I'm just going to say what they are so that those of you who just want to know those things can scoot on out of here on a Friday night if you want and come back later to watch it. All of you who are watching, if you wouldn't mind taking a second to like the video, it'll get out there for people who are looking for recaps on trial today. So I have to go pretty far back in my notes. I wrote a lot today, although I admittedly did not take as many notes as I normally do because I had to take several breaks for my mental health. First of all, I already mentioned 2 of them, actually. The moment when Lori Vallow Daybell got thrown out of court. And to give you a little bit of context on that, what was happening is that they were having, the jury was not present in the courtroom. The parties had just finished a very long sidebar, and the judge wanted to put on the record that the sidebar was regarding warnings that he needed to give to the defendant, Lori Vallow Daybell, representing herself. She has a fool for a client. And they were discussing the fact that she keeps trying to bring in character information about that she was a good person, that she visited Brandon when his kids were born. Trina Kay had objected all over the place to those narratives coming in. And so Judge Boreski said, I'm going to have to warn the defendant. If you keep trying to bring this in, it's going to open up to 405. And that's when Lori got real argumentative. And she said, is it going to open up to 405 or are we going to have a 405 hearing? And she got real belligerent with him. And you saw the moment I just played it. And you know what? Why not? Why not play it one more time? It's just so fun to watch. Thanks to Law Crime Fix for this clip right at the beginning of their video, because the audio is so much better than it was in the courtroom today.
And would you
talk
like
to your advisory council during the break? And
you don't need to yell at me either.
yelling at you, okay?
Yeah, you are, and you do not need to talk to me that way. I'm very curious.
Lori Vallow Daybell booted from the courtroom.
Lori saying that she has been courteous to Judge Boreski is the most laughable thing possibly that I've heard in a very long time. Right after that clip, Judge Boreski said, you have been nothing like courteous to me throughout these proceedings. It was definitely a moment where we were all pretty shocked. Some people were delighted, some people were elated, and that was crazy. It was just a crazy moment. It wasn't on my radar that something like that was going to happen. I never imagined that Lori would tell the judge that, you don't need to speak to me that way. And to be honest, when I read this, that Nate did a post. I follow Nate Eaton of East Idaho News because he's there in the courtroom and he's reporting line by line everything that's happening. When I read it, I originally thought Judge Boreski had raised his voice, but when I saw it happen in court on the stream, I was shocked to see Judge Boreski was just as calm as he almost always is. Now, definitely he was more intense, he was more insistent, he was very firm with her, but he wasn't yelling, he wasn't rude, and she came back and just got it handed to her. And I can't remember, please forgive me, I can't remember the chatter that said this in my live chat today, but they said, turns out Judge Boreski doesn't need a shock belt to shock Lori. That was a good one, definitely. So Lori getting thrown out of court probably was the number one moment. The second moment was when Trina K revealed during one of those sidebar moments when the jury was out of the courtroom, she confirmed that Melanie Boudreaux Pulaski is under investigation. That's something that so many of you have asked questions and expressed frustration with, that Melanie hasn't been charged with anything. We've seen her involvement in all of this. We know she was the only one who had Brandon's address, the new address and everything. So we knew that she was part of this conspiracy. Lori, in her opening statement, revealed that Melanie's a named co-conspirator who hasn't been charged. And so Trina K confirmed for us today that that was the case. And we'll dig into that in a moment too. So Lori getting thrown out, Melanie's been named. What was the other one? The third thing, and actually this was the first thing that happened today, is that Trina K confirmed that the door is open. Now, what does that mean? Well, we've been talking for a long time about whether or not Trina K would bring in evidence, or not evidence, but be able to mention Lori's past convictions. She initially filed a motion to be able to bring those in. And then she withdrew that motion and she narrowed it down to just bringing in her conviction for fraud by deception. Just count 7, fraud by deception. Judge never ruled on that motion. So Lori, that was part of Lori's contention during this little clip, is that she thought the state withdrew that motion and that they weren't going to bring in any of that evidence. Well, now Lori opened the door. So first thing that happened this morning is that in the courtroom, jury is not present. Trina K wants to go on the record, and she basically says, during Lori's opening statement, when she referred to herself as a good person, as a kind person, as a loving person, Trina K said that that violates the rules of an opening statement, and she has opened the door to talk about her character. And Trina says if she continues to talk about her own character, then Trina K is going to feel free to talk about her bad acts, her 4 convictions that she's had so far. And so that was a mind-blowing moment for me. I was so excited and happy. I thought what she was saying is that she was definitely going to bring it in, but what she was saying is, this is a warning that I'm going to ask to bring it in if she keeps referring to this. And sure enough, Lori did. Lori did continue to refer to that in her cross-examination of Brandon Boudreaux. So I'm gonna have to now go back to my video description because I don't remember what the other 2 things were that I said that I was going to look at, those 5 things. I wrote them down in here. So Lori was removed. Her motion to remove Judge Boreski was denied. That also happened early this morning at 8 o'clock this morning. Lori's second written motion to have Judge Boreski removed from the case was reviewed by the presiding magistrate, Judge Green, and she wrote in her decision that Lori was too late to file a 10.1 dismissal request because the trial had already started. And she also reiterated some of the things that she said in her initial hearing when Lori was there in person. Sorry, I've got dinner coming. And so that was another thing that happened today. That motion was denied for the third time. Was that today or was that yesterday, you guys? My time clock is all messed up. My internal clock is all messed up. Anyway, Lori was removed. The motion was denied. The door was open. The co-conspirator has been investigated. And what was the fifth thing? It seems like there should be a very obvious, oh, we heard the gunshot today. That was a wild moment. And actually, I think that is probably the first thing that I would like to go into today. So we started out with Detective Fair was still on the stand. Lori finished up her cross-examination of Detective Fair. And you don't need to know anything about that because Lori's questions are so inane and ridiculous. She doesn't know what she's doing. All she knows how to do is go back and ask the same questions and just reconfirm what the state has already asked these people. And so this definitely is not, we don't need to know all the questions that Lori asked, because I guarantee you they're going to be the same ones. She's going to do that same dumb thing where she continues to ask about, the numbers of things, to try and nail down people to exact numbers of things. Just starring a couple of questions, guys, and I promise I will do my very, very best to get to them. McSpunky, you're always cracking me up. Chat cracked me up a lot today as well with, making up imaginary questions. It was just it was good to have some levity to this day. It was really heavy. So, okay, I think I start everything that I can see right here at the moment. And so let's see. Lori asked a bunch of dumb questions. Nobody was surprised. She asked this detective if he was aware that Alex was a stand-up comedian. What relevance, why do we care about that, Lori? We don't. That's the thing. We don't. Okay, so there are a couple of moments I want to get to here. I'm going to go here, share this tab instead. And I have, these are the time markings from my own live stream today that I streamed the Law and Crime, basically stream of this. And here are a couple of Lori's finest moments.
How could you explain it falling out? Could you explain that to me?
1 second. I'm going to rewind that just a little bit. First of all, full screen, because that makes it easier for me. What did we say? 119. Here we go.
When the victim drove away?
It's possibility. There's a lot of possibilities.
So my question is, how would it have fallen out? How could you explain it falling out? Could you explain that to me?
She wants the detective to explain to her how the bullet fragments fell out of the bullet hole. That's all I have to say about that. So I do want to show an actual serious thing. Some of this is going to be jokey, guys, because I just had to find moments of levity in this day. But I do want to show this photo that I think is important right here.
Also view the glass itself.
Yes.
That is laying on the driveway.
Yes.
And did you also, Exhibit 46, note that little notch or divot in the glass itself?
So this is important because this little notch in the glass, the divot in the glass, is where the bullet would have hit the glass, and that's the reason why the window shattered. So if we go back just a little bit, and we can see the bullet hole in the Tesla, you can see that the bullet went through this frame and would have hit the glass right at the top right here. And then when it fell out, it was still intact somewhat because it was, it had that tint mesh sort of holding it together, but you could still see the divot in it when, even after it fell out. And then this detective noted that he did not find any casings by the pool. And that was something that Lori brought up was, did you find any casings by the pool? And he said, no, we wouldn't have expected to find casings away from the house. Because what happened is Brandon, after he was shot at, he went around the corner and parked at the pool. And so Lori made a big deal about saying, well, you didn't find anything by the pool, so there must not have been any evidence. Then one of the ladies who lived in Brandon's neighborhood had a Ring camera that picked up the sound of the shot as it fired out. And this was terrifying. So I'm going to play this here, just a warning to everybody. This is one of those things that I didn't know existed. This is brand new. And thinking about hearing that and thinking about Brandon being in such close proximity to that would have been pretty terrifying. Let's see, where am I? There we go. This is the neighbor. She provided that Ring camera footage to law enforcement.
And if we could just show at the beginning we missed where.
And it was a little bit, the sound cut out a little bit, so they played it a second time. It was pretty loud. And this is from a house that was down the street and around the corner from where the shooting occurred. So it was pretty far away and it was pretty loud. So that, I don't know if it has as much impact on you guys as it did hearing it, but it was pretty scary to think about. That was a scary moment. Now, after this witness was when Lori began her cross-examination of Brandon Boudreaux. And I knew that this was going to be tough. Just having, Brandon having to face his, somebody who tried to have him killed, that is traumatic. But also the fact that she now gets to cross-examine him. And I've said this before, but the thing that bothers me the most about Lori is her disrespect for the victims, both alive and dead. It's very, very difficult for me to endure listening to her, the way she talks about the victims and the way that she when she says things like Tammy Daybell is my good friend, and when she refers to Charles as my husband, those types of things are just really hard. So anyway, she basically tried to lay this foundation with Brandon that she and Brandon had a good relationship and that they had never argued. She was trying to bring in a lot of evidence about, oh, I was there at your wedding. I came in to help take care of your family when your children were born. And Brandon was doing a really great job of holding her feet to the fire. He really made sure that she explained exactly what she was asking him. And this is an important thing to do with somebody who is trying to gaslight you. He asked her to clarify what she was asking or what she meant or what she was getting at. That's a really important thing to do, because sometimes people with narcissistic traits will ask you a really broad question and then just wait to see where you go with it so that they can get more information to use against you. And I think that's kind of what she was trying to do here. And Brandon did a great job of basically asking her to reiterate or asking her to restate the question. And so I thought that was really excellent. But then Lori started trying to establish this idea that they had never argued before. And she was really overly broad. She was saying, you and I have never had an argument. It just was so infuriating. Now, she brought up something that maybe you guys don't know about. She asked Brandon, were you upset with me? You've never been upset with me before. Brandon was like, I don't know how to answer that. And it got objected to anyway. Then Lori brought up Juice Island. And she said, were you upset with me about Juice Island? Now, here's something that some of you may not know. When Lori and Charles were living in Hawaii, they wanted to open a Hawaiian shaved ice stand. And so Brandon and Melanie invested along with Charles and Lori in opening this Hawaiian ice stand. Well, it didn't go well. They ended up having to close it. And I think they ended up all of them losing some money over it. And so that was Lori's reference to Juice Island. But Trina K objected to it because she said, 404. And then here was something really interesting that Lori said, I loved Melanie, correct? And Brandon said, I don't know if I can say that you did. Well, I acted in a loving way towards her. And Brandon basically just said, I can't testify as to how you feel or how you were acting. And it just reminded me that love means different things to different people. And to someone with narcissistic traits, they're really not capable of forming a connection in the way that the rest of us are. Lori is not capable of feeling empathy or compassion for other people. Most narcissistic people aren't. And so when a narcissistic person says, I love you, sometimes what they mean is that I love that I can manipulate you. I love that I can control you. I love the role that you play in my life. I love the supply that you give me. But as far as when I say I love someone, it means that I have care and concern about their well-being and their happiness. I think that's what most of us mean when we say that we love someone or something close to that. But that's not what narcissistic people mean when they say I love you. And so it was very wise of Brandon to say that I don't know if you really did love Melanie, and I can't testify as to, how you might have felt about her. So I thought that was really a smart way for Brandon to handle it. And I really appreciated his treatment of that subject. It's a good reminder for all of us. So there was a lot of objecting going on during all of this. And what Lori kept trying to bring in this video from a Facebook post where Brandon was dancing with some coworkers in a place called the Pink Pony. And yes, McSpunky, I didn't star it, but I saw your comment, and now I do. I've had Pink Pony Club, the song Pink Pony Club, in my head all week long because of that dumb video. So for those of you who may not know, apparently there was a Facebook post where Brandon was with some coworkers at a place called the Pink Pony. It is not a gay bar. It's just a regular club as far as I understand. And they were messing around, and some of the guys were, pretending to dance up on Brandon and whatever. It was kind of weird and cringy. I haven't seen the video. I don't know if any of you had. But Melanie, or Lori, I guess Lori saw this video and then tried to convince Melanie that because of that video that Brandon was gay. And this is what Lori just harped on for the longest time, trying to get the video brought in. And when the video got shut down and she wasn't allowed to ask about that anymore, she paused for a really long time because she didn't know. She was trying to figure out, like you could even see the smoke coming out of her ears, trying to figure out, how am I going to bring in this video? I have to bring it in, because she really, really wanted people to know that, I think, this is my speculation, I think she wanted people to know that she didn't convince Melanie that Brandon was gay, that Melanie didn't need any convincing because she saw the video. She came up with this on her own. And here's what I wrote. All she's trying to do is correct people's opinion of her. She can't stand for people to think ill of her, and so she will gaslight until she believes the person has changed her mind. And that was really all that she cared about. And I've seen that throughout the Charles trial and this trial as well, that she's using this as an opportunity to confront people who have said things about her that she doesn't like. That's all. She's not trying to get evidence on the record. She's trying to win back her reputation when she believes it's been maligned because people have said things like, oh, you believe in zombies. When did I ever say that? You know, that kind of thing. Mari Brown, thank you for this super chat. Love is not what you can get out of them. Brandon's my hero. I saw pain but strength in him. Me too. Honestly, it gutted me to hear his description of how he has felt about losing his family, for his whole family to be taken from him, to fall apart because of the manipulations of this evil person. Yeah, I think she was also trying to get people to think less of Brandon. I think Lori believes that other people think the way that she does, that being gay is some kind of a sin, or it makes you less of a human being or something like that. So I also think she may have been trying to show Brandon was, quote, cheating, which obviously wasn't the case. And I loved this too, Squinting Cat. Brandon kept repeating the gay questions and making Lori say it again and again. Showed how ridiculous it was. And I love that trick when somebody says something disrespectful or rude to you. I love that trick of saying, can you repeat that? Jefferson Fisher, who I follow on TikTok and also here on YouTube, is an attorney who teaches people these kinds of ways to respond to disrespectful and rude and manipulative people. And I absolutely love it. When someone says something disrespectful or rude to you, ask them to repeat it because they're going to realize how awful it sounds. You can also say, did you mean for that to be rude? Did you mean for that to be disrespectful? Because then they have to explain themselves. So just some different ways to deal with people like Lori. So now I have a note here that said Lori's settings are stuck on stupid. She doesn't know how to ask a good question. And then this is where I had to take a big break because I wrote that watching an abuser abuse people is triggering. She definitely was engaging in that manipulation and narcissistic abuse. And I endured so much of that growing up that it was really hard for me to watch. And I went back to that place in my body where I felt anxious and my heart was pounding and I was shaky. And I really had to get up and walk around and take deep breaths and do some stretching and touch grass and go outside and all of those things. Because if you have ever been in that position where a narcissistic person has been trying to gaslight you, it's a really, really terrible position to be in. So I hope that all of you take care of your mental health as you watch Lori maneuver and do evil things in the courtroom. Jeanette, I appreciate wanting to talk about wonderfulness, but I'm doing a recap of trial. So we are going to talk about Lori, and we are going to talk about the way she manipulates and controls and all of that. And if it's triggering to you or you're having a hard time with it, please feel free to take care of your mental health by scrolling on by. So this also, during this cross-examination of Brandon, was the first time that Lori was trying to she was trying to use exhibits in the courtroom for the first time. And this is kind of what got her in trouble. So apparently Jeff White did appear out of nowhere and did provide her with the files that she needed. In fact, her attorney was late. Both of her attorneys were late to court this morning. One of them had a childcare issue, which he sent an email about. Jeanette, I'm going to have to just send you away. Sorry. If that is your real name. So one of Lori's advisory council sent an email saying that he was going to be late because he had a childcare issue. And then when we got to court, it was 9:30, and judge said, "Where's your advisory council?" And Lori said that she was out making copies or printing off photos, and Judge Boreski was not happy about it. In fact, I will read to you the tweet because I don't have the, well, actually, it was right at the beginning, so maybe I can just play it for you. And guys, I apologize for my dogs. I let them out, and they seemed to be fine, and now they're just going crazy for no reason. So I apologize. So yeah, the judge denial, that was this morning. I'm really glad that I went back and watched this because now I know I'm not crazy. It's just been a really long day. So this has got to be about an hour in. I didn't note the exact time. And maybe we'll play it on one of the breaks. So Lori is just coming into the courtroom. Oopsie, sorry guys, I didn't mean to do that. So there's no sound yet on the trial, but I'm going to go ahead and, sorry, there's two of me talking. I apologize. Mute myself, and I will see you guys in the chat. See the rack belt? You can see it right there, right in the middle of her jacket. And they're showing the seal, which means they're probably about to bring in the jury. She's walking upright today. Oh, goodness. I'm so excited. So excited. So excited.
When did that email come in? All right, so we got an email at 9:20 saying she's still at her office printing off pictures, which is wholly unacceptable. Ms. Daybell, you represent yourself. You do not need your advisory council here. But I'm going to split the difference. She's being sent an email that says if she's not here at 9:50, we're going to start. If there's pictures that need to be printed off, staff can do that. Staff can bring it over later, but should have been here at 9:30. If this were federal court, she'd probably be going into custody. I mean, this is ridiculous. All right, I'm just letting everyone know what the holdup is. We're going to start at 9:50.
Judge, at 9:50, I do need to make a record regarding character evidence and the defendant opening the door before she questions some witnesses.
Okay.
Just want to make sure that that's out there so she's aware of that.
We'll do that at 9:50. Do you want to stay out here or go back?
I hate it when I do that. I muted it so that so we could hear the video. But basically, I'm showing clips. I'm showing clips from court today. Live court is over, but I just wanted to point out Judge Boreski was pretty upset with that attorney. He said if this was federal court, that she'd be taken into custody. That's a pretty big deal. So he was very upset about that. But again, he was very even-keeled. He was kind and respectful about it. He was not rude. He just matter-of-factly said, here's what's going to happen. And again, over-accommodating by saying, okay, I'll split the difference with you. She said she'd be here in 20 minutes. I'll give her 10. We're going to start at 9:50, basically. And he was just really, really accommodating about it. So now I'm going to go to Lori's first time using exhibits in the courtroom, because this is kind of what started to get her in trouble. 3:29-ish. And these timestamps are from my video. I came in early and did a little bit of a recap in the morning. So my video started about 45-ish minutes before we got the court feed. So I just didn't want you to, think that these timestamps will work on another feed. Uh-oh, we're already at 40 minutes. I better hurry up.
See if Melanie has any financial gain from your death, basically.
Okay, so Lori wanted to bring in this set of emails between Brandon and Detective Pillar. And there was this is the first time she's brought an exhibit, so the judge had to review it, and Trina Kay gets an opportunity to review it to see if they have any objection to her bringing this evidence in, or if it's even proper for her to bring it in. So there's the judge reviewing the exhibit, and let's hear what he has to say about it.
Okay, hold on. Make sure everyone can hear you and the court reporter can.
I would have to ask to see that as well. I don't.
So
know what she's
the
talking
last
about.
line was Detective Pillar writes, is it Pillar or Pillar?
Pillar, like a pillar in a building.
Pillar. Detective Pillar writes, this information is requested so we can see if Melanie has any financial gain from your death, basically, correct?
Did you catch that? He says, he's a little quiet, but he says the last line of the email says basically that we're trying to determine if Melanie experienced any financial gain if you were to be, but by your death, if she would benefit financially from your death.
Correct.
Okay, so that creates motive for Melanie. It seems like I guess it's fair area for him to talk about in general, but it's also a fair area for you to talk to the detective about what areas they investigated. But let me hear the state's response. But as far as that particular email comes in, I suppose you could ask some questions about it, but let me hear from the state.
Judge wants to
Judge,
hear from the
obviously
state.
that's one, a conglomeration of emails, so I don't know that that fully covers everything. Two, I guess the defendant has never raised a third-party defense. I'm not sure if she's trying to say that this was all Melanie Boudreaux, but that is actually an open investigation that is still ongoing. The state has obviously in trial referred to her as an active member of this conspiracy. So I'm not sure if she's trying to admit that or just question him if he was providing information to the police. But the last thing I will, again, just in terms of opening the door, is she's made a big deal about the number of calls and text messages. And as I've indicated, there is still an open investigation against Melanie Boudreaux. And so many of that information might relate to that case, or it might also relate to the Tammy Daybell case, because there was information about that, as well as the Charles Vallow case. So to infer that all of those conversations related solely to this defendant, this incident, October 2nd, is probably a little disingenuous.
Were you intending to enter that as an exhibit, or just were you asked to provide information that Melanie might have a motive?
I would like to admit it, and I would like to question him on it as well, yes.
What is the bait page on
It's
that?
Bates 5465.
I don't know that there's anything in it that's particularly misleading or anything like that to the jury. I don't know how relevant it is, but I think to the extent that there may have been some questions about Melanie's participation and whether or not she had a motive are relevant. What's the state's response, I guess? I know she didn't notice third-party defense.
Guess I'm asking now, is she doing that? Obviously, I have a right to know before the trial ends if that's an active defense she's asking for.
Yep.
I'm not, Your Honor. I'm trying to say the connection that I've been accused of with Melanie connects me to Melanie. So that's why I'm trying to establish how am I connected to this? I didn't have a financial gain here. This is the financial gain through Melanie. This is conversations between the detective and Brandon
And
that I
obviously,
want to question him on. I'm not trying to blame Melanie. That's my point.
I have
Well,
not alleged a financial gain for the defendant, so I
What was that? I'm sorry.
said I have not alleged a financial gain. I've not alleged much of a motive because we are trying to keep out much of that. So I guess, again, if we're going to start going into motives, then we have prior instance of the defendant having financial gain in the previous trial that we did here. So if we want to go into the whole overarching financial scheme and cult activities, then we can do that. But again, the state had decided not to bring in any of that. If we're going to do that, then obviously we'll change who all of our witnesses are.
All right, let me, rather than just make a.
That was something I did not catch earlier today. I must have been responding to chat or something. Trina K said, if we're going to go that direction and bring in all of the cult stuff, then I'm just going to go and change who all of our witnesses are. So if she's going to bring everything in, then she's going to bring everything in. She's going to bring more people, different people, etc. So that was a pretty important moment. The judge basically said, I'm going to think about it and we'll come back to it when we get back from lunch. So let me fast forward through the lunch break and we can see what the judge said after lunch. This was before the jury was brought back in. And he basically made a verbal ruling on what was going on. And I apologize, guys. Some stuff came up in chat that I wanted to address, and I completely forgot what it was. I was going to confirm that, yeah, this would have been correct if they'd been successful in the shooting. Melanice would have gotten the entirety of the house money plus the life insurance. Oh, it was Cat Animals 00. She doesn't make sense. Yeah, and it's impossible to even, this must be what's so infuriating for the judge and for Trina K. Lori's arguments don't make sense. Her conclusions aren't logical. It's really hard to try and understand what a crazy person is doing or thinking. And so it's really hard to then come up with how you're supposed to maneuver around it. And this is their work setting. This is what they do for a living. And they're used to dealing with attorneys who actually know what they're doing and what they're talking about, forming legal arguments and also being able to, have a coherent thought. And her just being so unpredictable must be really, really difficult for them to deal with. Sorry, I thought I saw something else in chat I needed to address, but I'm just starring a couple of comments. So let's go back to, I think this is right where we came back.
If she was the beneficiary of a life.
Where a judge is going to say what he asked earlier. As a mod, I know that I have members over here. Sorry, guys, for my commentary. That's not what you're here for.
Jury is not present. In relation to exhibit number 192 that we talked about before break, the defendant may ask the following question.
Oh, sorry.
You may want to write this down. In February of 2020, while this case was being investigated, did Detective Pillar ask you to provide any documentation which might support whether Melanie had a financial motive for your murder or death, however you want to phrase that? The state may also ask follow-up questions on whether or not any financial motive existed, such as a life insurance policy. I don't know the answer to that. If she was the beneficiary of a life insurance policy. Additionally, the defendant has opened the door somewhat, and for now, the state may ask in redirect a question along the lines of, all the communication you had with Detective Pillar in the last 5.5 years was not solely about this case, correct? Some of your communications with Detective Pillar were related to a separate investigation, correct? To the extent the door gets opened further than that, I guess depends on where the defendant goes for the rest of her cross. I don't see any reason to actually introduce that Exhibit 192 because it has other information on there as well. So that's the ruling.
Okay, so basically the judge says you can't introduce this as an exhibit, but he literally feeds her questions that she is allowed to ask. And then she, of course, takes that and rambles on and goes on and on for 5 or 10 minutes asking those questions 100 different ways. And none of it really makes sense. And we didn't learn anything. In fact, we're all now dumber for having listened to her line of questioning. It was so difficult to listen to and so painstaking because she was just literally wandering all over the place. I almost asked at one point if she would like some ranch dressing for that word salad, because that's all it was. There was nothing coherent in there. It was pretty awful. Now on redirect, of course, Trina K did an excellent job of tying up all of the loose ends that Lori left hanging out there. And one of my favorite moments is that she asked Brandon, did Lori Vallow have a direct effect on your family situation, on you losing your family? And he said yes. And she said, are you having memory problems with everything, the events that happened? And he said, no, I'm not. He said, I'm just trying to be honest and to be thorough. And I really appreciated hearing that from Brandon. So Trina K went and clarified all of the word salad that Lori tried to lay out there. Trina just went back and clarified the main points that were really important. She had Brandon describe the Jeep and what happened. She clarified that it wasn't a paintball gun. Brandon said he called 911 right away because he wanted protection and he wanted to feel safe. He knew that he'd been shot at. So she did a great job, Trina K did, of wrapping all of that up. Now, after Brandon, Detective Duncan came onto the stand, I should say. And this was a new thing for me as well today, and something I thought that it was important, so I want to share it with you. Trina K showed us a picture of the Jeep and Alex's truck being parked at the Chandler residence. I'm going to try to, there we go. So this is the Chandler residence I guess I should share it with you so you can see it. This is, Rye the guy, you're right. Lori did not ask Brandon if he remembered those green chili chicken enchiladas. And I can tell you, my green chili chicken enchiladas are unforgettable. Just starring a couple of other questions here so that we get to them. So they, of course, referenced an incident that happened on July 11th of 2019. So Trina K referenced that when she showed these pictures. This is a picture of the inside of the garage at the Chandler house that Charles was renting for Lori to live in. Sorry. Dinner questions again. Maybe too late for that. Sorry about that, you guys. So this is a photograph that was taken from inside the garage looking out. And on the left side, you can see the Jeep right there. And it is hard to tell what color it is. You can see Alex's truck, This is Alex's truck right here. And this is Lori's Nissan Rogue. So there's the Jeep. Again, hard to tell what color it is. It's also inside a garage where the lighting isn't great. But Trina K wanted to make sure and note that this was Lori's Jeep. This was taken inside Lori's house. Alex's truck is there. The Jeep is there. The Jeep belongs to Lori. She's basically trying to make sure that we establish and know that this is Lori's Jeep. And it had a Texas plate. So I'm going to play just a little bit of this.
Did the Chandler police photograph a Jeep Wrangler?
We did.
There it is.
I'm going to put, so exhibit 81 and 80, are we seeing sort of the side, and then 82, the front of that Jeep?
Yes.
When we get to 83, let me pull it back a little more.
There you can see the Texas plate.
And then a close-up, is that the license plate that was on the Jeep at Lori Vallow's house on July 11th with a Texas plate of LWD 0997?
Yes, it is.
Now, I was really grateful
And
to
85
see
as
these
well.
pictures of the Jeep because in my mind, I was thinking of a Jeep, not with the hard top, but with the soft top. Have you guys seen those? Do you know what I'm talking about? They're just easy to pull down the soft top so that you can have it be just open air. This Jeep was a hard top. And I think in my mind this whole time I've been having a hard time visualizing the window tint and Alex in the back of the Jeep and everything because I was thinking about a soft top Jeep. So this is a hard top Jeep, and now seeing it, it's so much better, easier for me to visualize that that Alex was in the back seat was out, and this back window was on a hinge. So it would have come up like this as it opened. So this was visually very, very important for me to see. Yeah, the soft top Jeep with the zipper windows and all of that. Yeah. So this was before it was tinted as well. Somebody just pointed out in chat. This picture was taken on July 11th of 2019. The tint wasn't done until September 25th of 2019. So those windows are already pretty dark. You can imagine a darker tint on those windows would have made it impossible to see somebody inside. And we believe that Alex was probably laying down in the back of the Jeep for the entire time he was waiting. They didn't know he was going to the gym. And so he was there in the back of the Jeep that whole time with the Jeep running. And that's what the neighbor testified to yesterday. He said it was odd that Jeep was nose to nose with the van that was normally parked on the street, and that the car was running the entire time. So also note, the tire is on the back of the Jeep right now, but Lori removed the tire and the back seat and put it into the storage unit that she rented the day before the shooting. And she was caught on camera with Chad Daybell putting that seat and that tire into the storage unit. And then she was caught on camera with Alex the next day taking it out of the storage unit to put back into the Jeep. So this picture was a really important part of the evidence for me. I'm going to fast forward a little bit so that we can hear an objection from Lori, which was pretty dumb. Go back just a little bit.
Yes.
State will move to admit 186.
Foundation objection, Your Honor.
What foundation's lagging?
The fact that, I don't know,
Okay.
foundation objection.
It's admitted.
I'm sorry. This is one of those moments where I literally did laugh out loud. I don't know if you can hear it because it's pretty quiet. Lori says, foundation objection, Your Honor. And the judge says, what foundation is lacking? And she says, pauses a long time and then says, I don't know, just foundation objection. Like she doesn't know. She literally doesn't know. But at least she got in one objection today. I mean, that's better than she has kind of done in the past. Now, this is a moment too that a lot of people are talking about and asking about. There was a little bit of a hot mic moment. Yeah, Debbie, she literally did say, "I don't know, Your Honor." Just a foundation objection. I don't know. I mean, we can listen to it one more time if you want to.
Yes.
The state will move to admit 186.
Foundation objection, Your Honor.
What foundation's lagging?
The fact that, I don't know,
Okay.
foundation objection.
It's admitted.
I don't know. Foundation objection. Seems like she's kind of given up at this point. Okay, so the next one, this is something people are talking about. There was a hot mic moment where Lori whispered something into the microphone, and we can speculate about this a little bit. It was a little odd, to be honest. She's looking at an exhibit at the moment. Did you hear it? It was very quiet. She whispered, "This is the end." Now, who knows what she was talking about? I think she was talking about the video that she was looking at. But I thought it was one of those moments that, like, you could take that in so many different directions, you know? And I just thought it was kind of one of those moments that was like, was that Freudian? Did we just catch something that was a real moment that she didn't realize what she said, you know? She said that, but the significance of it just really felt, I don't know, it felt powerful to me, and maybe it wasn't to you, but I had to just shake my head a little bit. It was very telling. One more time. Here we go. It's very quiet. I made a loud noise right when she said it. I'm so sorry, you guys. I'll rewind one more time.
The last section for.
That's what it sounded like to me. This is the end.
The last section.
So anyway, moving right along, guys. We are almost done with this recap here. We are 1 hour and 3 minutes in. Oh, thank you, Susie Catherine. This is really kind of you. I love your colorful little thumbnail there. So we had, after Detective Duncan, we had Detective Olzak, and he is now working for the Secret Service, he said, I believe. But at the time, he was a specialist in electronics, and he was responsible for, I'm sorry, you guys. My dogs are crazy. Sorry. I'm sorry. My dogs are doofuses sometimes. It's trying to get them to go to their cages. Okay, so we had Detective Olzak. He took the infotainment center out of Alex's truck, and he testified that there was a lot of call logs for Alex's burner phone. He connected his burner phone to his call log, to his truck infotainment system. And basically testified that they got some data. They collected GPS data from it from December 3rd through December 31st, 2019, which I found interesting because Alex died on December 5th. So I think that Trina was laying the foundation to bring in some more information about what they found, but they didn't reference it. They basically said there was no GPS data from October. So maybe they were just trying to prove that Alex did not drive his truck down to Arizona. I'm not exactly sure what the point of that was. So I'm hoping we'll find out later on in trial. If somebody else knows what the point of that testimony was, I would appreciate it. I was a little confused, but ultimately it was a long day. My brain is not as sharp today as it normally is. Then we had Detective Pillar. He was the first detective on scene. He was the detective in charge of coordinating who did what at the crime scene and who took what evidence, etc. And there were some important points that he made. He got to the scene, got an update from the other officers who were already there, who had interviewed Brandon and looked at evidence. And then he gave some information about the bullet hole. And he basically said, refuting what narrative Lori has tried to put out there. He said that this was definitely a bullet hole. He believed it came from a rifle. And he could tell because of the angle, the fact that it went through metal. He said bullets, when they move, are very hot. And the cleanliness of the damage in the car, it was a very fast-moving projectile. Then he also noted that he found glass in the car and also out on the street. And then Trina Kay showed a picture with 2 cones out there on the street showing where glass was found in the street. The main important thing Detective Pillar said is that everything Brandon Boudreaux said matched the briefing that he received from the other officers. He said, unfortunately, they were unable to retrieve any video information from the Tesla. They were unable to retrieve a casing, and they did use a metal detector to try and find that casing, but they weren't able to find it. And he said he believed that it was, at the time, based on all the evidence he was observing, that this was some kind of a rifle with a suppressor. Then he also testified that he personally collected the GSR or the gunshot residue from inside the Jeep, the DNA from inside the Jeep, and the prints that were collected. Then he also testified that there was a license plate reader that picked up the Jeep's license plate heading south on I-40 towards Phoenix on October 1st, approximately 26 hours and 30 minutes prior to the shooting. So that was important testimony as well. And now we are at recess until Monday. Now for what trial is going to look like going forward. Trina Kay noted at the end of trial today that she had to move around some witnesses, and all of her out-of-state witnesses who are flying in are going to be on Tuesday. Now, by my estimation, from what she said at the end of trial, it's very possible that the state could rest on Tuesday. And it's very possible, I think, we could be completely done with trial, including closing arguments, on Wednesday. I was trying to find that moment where Trina Kay kind of wrapped all of that up for us. Let's see if this is it right here.
The DNA person flying in, if we don't finish with Pilar, depending on how that goes, I also have.
It's very quiet because she's not in front of the microphone, and she doesn't care about the microphone. That's not on her list of things to be worried about.
A couple people flying in on Monday. I may need to ask to break with this detective to get those people on and get them back out.
Okay.
I have, just so we know, Dan Moss is flying in.
Say the name again.
Dan Moss, Thomas Miller. And
She said Dan Moss is flying in, Thomas Miller.
Emilien Sapinosa. So all those 3 are flying in, but I do need to get on Monday.
And she said one more person that I couldn't hear.
So I will likely ask to break with this detective to make sure that I can get them done.
Okay. All right. Anything else from you? All right. We'll be at recess. Thank you.
Okay, yeah. So, and then let's see. If all goes to plan, And if Lori behaves herself, which we know she's not going to, and if she doesn't call any witnesses or testify, then she'll be done by Wednesday, probably. This whole thing could be done by Wednesday. Oh my gosh, that feels so good to say that, which means I'll be going to Phoenix probably on Wednesday, because I do want to be there for the verdict and the sentencing. I don't think that the jury is going to deliberate very long. I would be surprised if they take the entire day. And so I'm just going to have to figure out what that all looks like. So I do have some questions in the chat that I want to answer, but also I want to share with you that I have some merchandise coming and I'm super excited about it. I have a mug coming that says, "Are you done?" One of my favorite moments.
Are you done? Are you just going to keep?
And I also have a t-shirt coming that says "nonchalant" across the front. And I also have one that says "revolutionary." All of my members here on the channel are revolutionaries. And what the store is going to do for me is they're going to set up a pop-up shop, which is basically a temporary website where you can go on and order things within like a 48-hour period. It'll be open. And then as soon as the shop closes, they will manufacture all of the t-shirts and ship them out to you. So I'm super excited about that. The sentencing for this case will happen right after the verdict. So when closing statements are done, the jury will be given their instructions and then they will go out to deliberate. I don't think they're going to be out very long. And so right after deliberations, they will read the verdict and then we go straight to the aggravation phase, which Lori stipulated to last time for the last trial. I don't know if she'll do the same for this trial, but that would include victim impact statements. And then after that, the jury would deliberate about the aggravation factors. And then after that, the judge will pronounce the sentencing. So I would guess that'll all get done within a couple of days. And that's what I'm hoping is going to happen because court has to be dark, not next week, but the week after that. So if we don't get done by Friday, then we're going to have to wait a whole week to finish things up the following Monday, the 23rd, 24th. So I'm really hoping that we get all of that done. It feels really exciting to be almost done and almost unbelievable. Like I can't believe after all this time, we're almost done. Like we're in the home stretch. It's almost over. Justice for Brandon. I'm so excited to just be done with it. So the trial before this one, she was found guilty of conspiracy to commit murder in the death of Charles Vallow, but she was not sentenced. So the sentencing for both trials will take place at the same time, and the judge gets to be the one who determines that. So the death penalty, obviously not on the table here, but I think that this case is, this particular trial, I think is going to go pretty quickly. I really hope that we get finished next week. So I'm going to answer just a couple questions because I was supposed to be finished 13 minutes ago, but I'm trying my best to get through it all. So Meme of 8 asks, Megan, did you see Lori turn around and look over where Brandon was sitting and she's seen Brandon and Kay Vallow bent over talking to each other? It was epic. No, I did not see that. She had a weird look on her face when that was happening. I was just focusing on looking at Brandon and Kay chatting with each other and reminiscing about how fun it was to be sitting near Kay, where she had lots of snarky comments to make. And I can't wait to be back with them again for the sentencing. And probably Jerry Vallow is going to be there. He's one of my favorites as well. Do you think Janice Berry and Summer are, quote, gassing Lori up behind the scenes, encouraging her to be belligerent brat in court and disrespectful to the judge, jurors, and prosecution? Honestly, I don't know how much contact she has with Janice Berry and Summer. I know at one point she was talking to her mom pretty regularly. I don't know if she still does or not. So I don't know, but I also don't think that Lori needs any help getting gassed up to be disrespectful. This is kind of just who she is. But, and I said this to somebody earlier, they asked if she was always like this. Well, she was always manipulative. She was always a bully to a certain degree. She always got her way, but I think she got worse and worse over the years. And I think that people not holding her accountable and her getting away with her shenanigans of discarding people and triangulation, I think it made her bolder, and I think it made her double down on her behavior all the time. And so anyway, I don't think that she needs help on that. Yeah, and Susie Catherine, I wish that I could remember what part of the trial that was. It was right after, I think it was right after Brandon testified, if I remember correctly. So maybe let me see if I can go and find it real quick, because, hey, Case 10, thanks for being here. Because I want to see the look on her face too. So let me see if I can find it. Let's see. Brandon finished testifying. Bless you, dog. Let's see, 5:29 redirect. So maybe about 6 hours and 5-ish minutes in, 6:03 maybe. Sorry, just talking out loud to myself as I try to go and find this here. Brandon was on the stand for a very long time today. He was very patient with Lori, and I really think he did an excellent job. He is a hero in my estimation. Okay, so here it was. Yeah, this was the moment Brandon went back to his seat. Let's see if I can go just a tiny bit farther back. So this is the victim's advocate right here, one of my favorite people in the whole wide world. She's wonderful. And then here's Brandon, and his wife Jenny is sitting right next to him. And then Kay is sitting right next to Jenny. And I can see Lori talking to her advisory counsel, Pamela Hicks. While Trina Kay is bringing in her next witness. So no, I didn't see Lori look at them. Maybe it was a different moment, and I've just got the wrong moment. Oh, sorry. I wasn't even sharing with you guys. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, you guys. I'm doing my best to keep it together, but I just wanted to show you this little moment right here. So there's Brandon has just sat back down next to his wife, Jenny, right there. And I didn't see Lori look over at them. So there was another moment when the camera was more zoomed out. So I think I just have the wrong moment.
All right, sir, come on up and be sworn in right here.
So yeah, lots and lots of explosive moments in court today. Big things that came out. If you're joining us just now, please go back and rewind. I go back and talk about the 5 most explosive moments right at the beginning of the video. I gave you all the good stuff up front. And right now I'm just answering some questions that have been starred. So Debbie Kelly asked, so the state can now bring up the murders. I believe that they can. I think it was more of a warning for Trina Kay that she will if Lori continues to talk about her character. And Lori certainly did that a lot when she was cross-examining Brandon. And so Trina warned her that it's a possibility. And I think if it comes up, that Trina Kay will probably ask for a sidebar and say that she's going to bring it in. So she can bring it in. I don't know if she will. I think mostly it was just a warning. So then B, do you think Summer still relies on Chad and Lori for their prophecies and guidance for her own life? It seems like she was in the cult all along. You know, I don't think that she does. I think she has walked back some of her loyalty to Lori. Obviously, we heard that phone call, super heartbreaking with her, where she yells and screams at Lori. She testified against Lori. She, did that CrimeCon interview where she said, she realized that she was wrong. She admitted that she was wrong. So I don't think that she has any communication with Chad. I don't think that she really believes, I don't think she ever really did believe necessarily in the prophecies, but I think she did give some credence to their guidance. And so I hope that she doesn't anymore, obviously, with all of the information that's come out about how awful all of this has been. Case 10 asks, did anyone count how many times Trina objected today? I lost track after 30. I usually, in my notes, I usually note when Trina has an objection, But I also stopped keeping track because there were so many objections during Lori's cross-examination of Brandon. So no, I don't have that number for you. Is Brandon gay, or was he just at a club with friends? I believe he was just at a club with friends. He says that he is not gay. He's married to a woman. They have a happy relationship. They're raising their blended family together. I don't think that he would have divorced Melanie and then married a woman if he was gay. That would have been his chance to have a relationship with someone else, right? That's my opinion. I don't know. I don't think anybody's sexuality is anybody's business. And also, I don't know. It's a whole complicated thing. But I think that Lori believed that if she told Melanie that Brandon was gay, that Melanie would want to divorce him. And I think that's why this became an issue in the first place. She was just trying to drive a wedge between Melanie and Brandon, and she saw that video as a perfect way to start this narrative about who he was and what he did. So that's my opinion. Take it or leave it. Rowan, to you, did they ever address the folder the investigator had? How did Lori get it? They never addressed it. We just know that her advisory counsel was late to court because she was printing out documents and photos. So I'm assuming that they got a hold of the folder overnight or early this morning, and that they got the information that they needed for her to cross-examine Brandon. That's just my speculation. Lee T, good to see you, says, Megan, did you notice Lori trying to rotate back around to the judge as she was kicked out and reached with one arm? Such disrespect. Let me go to that moment here. My video is not as easy to hear as the one that I shared at the beginning, but the one at the beginning doesn't show the part where she actually gets kicked out unless it shows it later. And I cut it off when the commentator started talking. They show a lot of stuff with Lori putting her head down, Trina K's opening statement, Lori's opening statement, some of Brandon's testimony. They did bring in a couple of text messages today, namely the one where Melanie texted Brandon asking for his new address. So I don't believe that they show this moment in this video that let me share this. Thanks for being here with me, you guys. I really appreciate it. I know that over half the people who watch my videos are not subscribed. So if you wouldn't mind subscribing, I would appreciate it, because it does help support my channel and get this content out there. Going back just a tiny bit. And now it's buffering. It's hard to get the exact time on these things sometimes.
To me during the course of these proceedings.
Okay, I'm going to have to rewind it just a little bit more. I'm sorry, you guys.
So
And would you
talk
like?
to your advisory counsel during the break, and
You don't
maybe
need to yell at me either.
yelling at you, okay?
Yeah, you are, and you do not need to talk to me that way. I'm
Take
very
her out.
courteous.
Take her out.
I'm very courteous to
Take
you.
her out. No, you have been nothing near courteous to me during the course of these proceedings.
And that's it for this episode of Crime Fix. I'm Anjanette Levy. Thanks so much for
Thanks to Anjanette Levy for letting me use your video under fair use policy. I appreciate it. So they didn't show Lori walking all the way out. So I'm going to go to my live stream moment. And wouldn't you know it, I didn't even note it when she got kicked out because I was so stunned by it. It would have been right after Brandon Boudreaux's testimony. So let me see if I can find it here really quickly. 529 is redirect. my heart went out to Brandon today. I just felt so much pain for him. Or no, it wasn't. It was during the break. That's right. That's when it happened. I can't see chat right now because I'm searching through the video. So I apologize, guys. I probably have missed a lot of stuff. Sorry, guys, just searching. You're right. Brandon was not done yet. It was... We were going to take a 15-minute break because Lori was cross-examining Brandon, and it was painful. 3:29. I think that's where it is. Okay. Sorry, you guys. Dang it. Okay. Well, I wish I could just find the video that I was watching before. Let me just look for that because I found one that had much better sound on it, and I did a screen recording of it, and then I couldn't find it again. So let me look at my watched. Law and Crime. This is the one I was just watching. Sorry. Thanks for being patient with me, you guys. This was like the one moment that I thought that I had all of this pulled up. And then I didn't realize that this video cut off the end and we didn't get to see her actually walk out. I have it on my screen recordings, but I can't share sound with you if I share the screen recording. Pretty Lies and Alibis has it. Here we go.
No longer present.
I'm going to fast forward a little because this goes on.
It was that she may not want
Any issue of character.
it's through it, but if you bring up 404, which could
Okay.
include being convicted of 4 murders.
And
So
would you
talk
like?
to your advisory counsel during the break. And
You don't need to yell at me either.
Yeah.
I'm.
Okay.
Yeah, you are, and you do not need to talk to me that way. I'm very curious. I'm very courteous to you.
Bro, no, you have been nothing near courteous to me during the course of these proceedings. Talk with your advisory counsel about the rest of your cross. We're going to resume in 15 minutes.
The look of defiance on her face. So that was it. And thank you, Gigi McKelvey of Pretty Lies and Alibis, for enhancing the sound on that so that we could hear it.
What's up, everybody?
And then there's Lawyer, you know. So anyway, that is it for that video. I appreciate it. And then I think I've got a couple more questions here, guys. Since Lori threw her niece under the bus, why can't Melanie do a plea deal now and testify on the state's behalf against Lori? Well, I don't know. I don't know if she's been offered a plea deal. I know Lori was not offered a plea deal. And sorry, guys. Oh, shoot. Okay. Lori was not offered a plea deal, so I don't know if Melanie would be offered one either. So I guess she could, if she was offered one, she could take a plea deal. She couldn't testify against Lori right now because that would be out of procedure. They have to disclose all their witnesses. Lori gets to interview the witnesses, and so I don't think that would work for this trial. Lori was trying to imply not necessarily that it was a four-door Jeep, but she was basically just trying to impeach Brandon's memory of the event. I think that was what was going on. Andy says, do you agree that Lori opened the door when she asked Detective Duncan how many hours he spent on reviewing texts in July. He said hundreds and hundreds. Trina reinforced that on redirect. Yeah, I thought that she did open the door I thought she opened the door as well when Brandon mentioned Charles Vallow. He was told by Charles Vallow. I thought that might have opened the door. So I don't know. I was all excited about the door being opened for all of those priors to come in. But then, Trina did not take the opportunity to do that. So I don't know what exactly the rules are with all of that and what she can and when she can and all that stuff. All I know is that Lori did open the door during opening statements. Trina made note that if Lori continues to do this, she's going to bring in all of those prior convictions. And so it's a possibility that it's going to happen. Yeah, I feel really sorry for anybody who has ever had to deal with Lori because she is rude and disrespectful to everyone. So guys, I am going to go. My Samuel is bringing me chicken wings. I'm going to relax with my kids, my dogs, and some beverages and enjoy my evening and my weekend, my Lori-free weekend. I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. I will be back first thing on Monday morning, reporting just the way I have been, streaming the trial and giving you recaps and updates. Take the weekend to do your self-care. Take care of yourself, breathe, get outside, hug on the people that you love. And thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your kindness and your support. I appreciate you so much. You have no idea. It means so much to me that so many people care about this case and care about finding healthier communication and relationships in their lives. Please have a wonderful weekend and take care of yourselves.